Hey, what's up, guys? This is the Ram Man here, and this is Ram Man Reviews, Episode 7. And today we'll be talking about SLENDERMAN. This one was distributed by Sony Pictures, and I'll just go on record as saying now that it is not a good film at all. Quite possibly the biggest disappointment of the year, and quite possibly the worst horror film I've seen so far. Biggest disappointment, not because I'm a fan of the Slender mythology. I mean, I think the games are pretty cool, the apps and all that, and the creepypastas. Some are pretty interesting. It's just disappointing because it seems like there's so much potential to make an interesting tale from this, and they fail on every aspect. The mythology in this film is all over the place. It goes from all over the place to like non-existent to changing the rules of it. The film itself is like edited terribly. Things just happen and you're kind of like wondering, what did I just see? It doesn't fit coherently. The acting is, it's not the worst I've ever seen, but it's far from good. None of the actors can emote very well, like they don't bring terror, they don't bring sorrow very well at all. They don't express it in a way where you actually feel for these characters. The writing is terrible. Just listening to some of the dialogue, it's like who wrote this? It's kind of like if you have to think back to something like Scream in the 90s, they knew what they were doing there. They had captured pretty much the teenage youth of the 90s, and they were able to get in the mannerisms and the language and all of that. Whereas this film, it felt like someone just, like, yeah, I guess teenagers talk like this, and they went with it. And it feels forced. It's just not good dialogue. The score is not very good either, and well, there really is no score, but the sound, it's just your generic horror sounds that you get. The scares are pretty much non-existent. There's really nothing horrifying about this film at all. The scenes that are supposed to be disturbing aren't. People were laughing at parts that were supposed to be scary, and it's just because of how hokey they are and how forced and dumb and redundant. You've seen all of these scares like a million times, and a million times better in other films. Let's see, Slenderman himself, he looked okay. You really didn't get enough of him, I thought. And when he did show up, he didn't do much. I know he's not known for doing much anyways, but if you're making a feature film, I would have expected something a little cooler. And he looked fine, but in general, even the effects are really bad, really sloppy. The kills are pretty much non-existent, save for like one or two, and they're both so weak. It's not worth it at all. There was one cool scene in the beginning where one of the characters is in a forest / like cemetery area that had some really nice atmosphere. So I really enjoyed that, but it was over, in an instant. And then there was one scene in a library where reality is warped for a bit. I thought that was kind of interesting, but again, it's over before you know it, and you're left wanting more. If it had more of those kind of elements to it, reality warping and cooler atmosphere in as far as the forest scenes go, then it would have been a much better film. And I know this was cut because it had to have been, by the way it's chopped up. You can tell that they took a lot of scenes out. So hopefully, if there is an unrated version that comes out, it improves the film. I doubt it, but you never know, I could be wrong. So yeah, at the end, Slenderman, not a good film at all. I would not recommend it to anybody. And I guess, yeah, that's it. That's all I have to say. This is the Ram Man here. Ram Man Reviews episode 7. Hope you guys have a good night and have a good weekend, everyone. Peace.